Na segunda e última parte desse material, veremos ainda essa questão do impacto do 11 de setembro sobre a comunidade muçulmana norte-americana, com mais uma sequência de depoimentos realmente muito interessantes, muito tocantes, e em especial se pensarmos no grande contraste que eles representam. Contraste esse ligado essencialmente à gênese, ao nascimento da nação norte-americana. Esse país e essa nação que se formaram essencialmente como terra de acolhimento, como terra de imigrantes, uma grande nação de imigrantes e, portanto, teoricamente, pelo menos, muito acostumada a acolher, a transformar em americanos, em norte-americanos, esses seres humanos das mais diversas origens étnicas, culturais, enfim. E é realmente muito interessante observar o imenso contraste entre essa gênese, essa tradição norte-americana tão forte e o desdobramento, o impacto do 11 de setembro nessa questão da comunidade muçulmana norte-americana. E nunca é demais lembrar, até porque será citado no material, mas esse país que já teve um presidente católico de origem irlandesa e que hoje é presidido, é liderado por um negro de origem queniana. Então, realmente fica como um imenso contraste. Claro que é preciso levar em conta o impacto do momento, o calor do contexto e tudo isso, mas também é preciso levar em conta o peso dessas raízes, dessas tradições, que são realmente muito fortes na gênese, no nascimento da nação norte-americana. Enfim, são os contrastes tão típicos da história humana, por que não dizer? Veremos agora a última sequência desse material.
Assim como os católicos no Brasil, muitos muçulmanos aqui nos Estados Unidos são pouco religiosos e não costumam frequentar mesquitas como esta. Ou não costumavam. Depois do 11 de setembro, muitos jovens de origem árabe e de outros países muçulmanos têm procurado mais a religião.
I think that the reason for that is primarily an identity issue. You know, there is so much talk about Islam and Muslims in the media today, it's inescapable, almost all of it negative. So somebody who comes from that background is saying, well, I know that that's not me, and I know that that can't really be true because I look around me and I know my family, my history, my past, I see other people. So there is a desire to actually define yourself and not let yourself be defined by others. So I see this attention to religion as a way of trying to take charge of the definition of oneself. So people are interested in doing that, and they seek out like-minded people, so they find themselves going to Islamic associations on campuses, going to mosques.
Mustafa Bayoumi, de origem egípcia, professor universitário em Nova York, acompanhou a vida de 7 jovens muçulmanos para escrever um livro sobre a dificuldade de ser jovem e muçulmano nos Estados Unidos depois de 11 de setembro. As histórias dos jovens têm em comum o desejo de deixar o passado para trás e se tornar americano. Yasmin Dueda é um dos personagens do livro de Bayoumi. Ela começou a sofrer discriminação por ser muçulmana antes do 11 de setembro. Tinha 14 anos e morava no Brooklyn, onde nasceu. O pai é egípcio e a mãe filipina. Yasmin foi eleita como secretária do Grêmio Estudantil, mas a religião muçulmana não permitia que ela fosse aos bailes da escola. E aí ela foi obrigada a renunciar ao cargo.
If I didn't resign, I would lose any chance of ever running again. So essentially they kind of did force me to resign, and what I did was I typed up a letter, you know, expressing my disappointment and how, you know, I had really wanted to serve the student body, and I think I had made reference to Martin Luther King, which, you know, down the road I thought to myself, you know, he didn't give up his life. Somebody took it from him.
Yasmin passou anos lutando. Finalmente conseguiu um advogado de graça e bastou ele ligar para a escola para resolver o problema. Yasmin foi novamente eleita, desta vez presidente do Grêmio.
You didn't give up your fight.
No, my struggle was something that was greater than just me. So I felt that, you know, if I could if I could win this right for myself, then I could win it for other people as well, because it's not just about being Arab and Muslim, it's also about, you know, accommodation in terms of faith and culture and all sorts of other things. I think there's a way for you to observe your faith and still be a productive, you know, member of society, whether it's, you know, on a micro level in your school or something bigger outside.
But discrimination against Muslims increased. Did you feel that?
You mean after 9/11? Directly after 9/11, I think discrimination was definitely off the charts. In Bay Ridge, because there's an Arab community there were definitely reports of attacks against innocent people and women that were dropping off their children. There were definitely stories, maybe not so much in Bay Ridge because there's a concentration of Arabs and Muslims, but in communities like Bensonhurst where people were being beat up, people were running around and just beating up Muslims. And I think that was going on for a while. I remember immediately after I felt very vulnerable because it seemed that everybody was just, I mean, for me, it's obviously apparent that I probably am Muslim, and I definitely have the Arab look. So it was very easy to be a target. Arabs and Muslims have pretty much been in a difficult state prior to 9/11, but it was definitely intensified after 9/11.
Perhaps the most profound change is that in the early years after September 11th, 2001, the most pressing issue for the community were these kinds of sweep arrests, these kinds of government policies, these kinds of racial profiling, religious profiling, national origin profiling. In other words, the security apparatus of the state was bearing down on the community and bearing down fast and heavy. But what's happened in the last few years is there's this general cultural fear of all things Muslim. And so you start to see within the culture at large this movement towards anti-Muslim laws, anti-Muslim legislations. In other words, you've moved from one that's a narrative of security, we have to protect ourselves because of security, to we have to protect ourselves to the cultural encroachment of Muslims.
What was the response of Muslim Americans to the killing of bin Laden?
I think that by and large it was also a kind of shrug. It was a good thing. By and large, you know, bin Laden has done more harm to our community than, namely the global Muslim community, than probably any other figure in modern history. Bin Ladenism was largely directed and killed more Muslims than it did non-Muslims in the Muslim world, and it certainly has made Muslim American life very difficult. So I think that there was no love lost for bin Laden.
After 9/11, I really don't think much has changed. It's been 10 years, but the same feelings of, you know, Islamophobia and nativism are still there. And there isn't a moment, I don't think, that the American public isn't reminded that Arabs and Muslims are a constant threat. And they never let it go, you know? So, I mean, I don't know. Especially recently with the whole Osama bin Laden thing, it keeps reviving all those nativist sentiments, right? I mean, I think one of the most inspirational things for me within the last couple of years was the election of President Obama. And that was something that definitely seemed impossible. He's biracial, but I mean, if you listen to all the media reports, he wasn't even Arab and he wasn't even Muslim, but he was hated on for basically what the media was doing was kind of linking him to Arabs and Muslims as a negative thing. I always said to myself I wanted to run for president of the United States in 2032. And now I know that's crazy. I mean, if Obama, you know, was facing all that heat when he wasn't Arab and wasn't Muslim, what's going to happen when, a female tries to do something like that? And not just a female who is actually Arab and Muslim. Hopefully, by the time 2032 comes around, you know, American society will have changed enough and gravitated away from this, you know, anti-Arab and anti-Muslim sentiment.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
And hopefully, they'll realize someday that, born here, not born here, as American citizens, we want to give back to the American community and that we want to be productive members of society. And hopefully we'll be accepted as Americans someday. And
well, I hope to see that, President Yasmin.
I hope so too.